Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Several countries are tightening their travel restrictions on the southern part of Africa as a result of a new COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa. And according to the scientists, it is of the B.1.1.529 lineage with a high number of mutations. The South African Health Department gave details of the latest developments, which are said to be concerning for predicted immune evasion and transmissibility. The B.1.1.529 genomes produced from samples collected between 12th to 20th November from Gauteng province. According to the experts, early signs from diagnostic laboratories show that this mutation has rapidly increased in Gauteng and may already be present in most provinces.
Currently, we have detected a new variant, which it is a reason for concern in South Africa. And so what we have done is to act very quick, and that's going to become evidence as a truly collaborative network of scientists in South Africa, together with the government, to try to identify that as the case that just start to increase, to really know what really we are facing. So the main message to take is that you have to know the enemy in order to fight.
It was important for us for this to be made public as soon as possible, just to, amongst others, just to make us aware that while we had hoped for a very long, recess in terms of low infections, so that, a lot more opening up, a lot more activities. This has just descended on us. And as we've always said, we have no control. We had always hoped that any spike of infection leading to a fourth wave would be in the middle of December at the earliest, or late in December, or even in the coming year in January. But here is now a mutation, a variant of serious concern, which is now driving this spike in numbers.
Well, in a swift response to this, many nations have announced travel bans and restrictions to and fro South Africa and 6 other African countries bordering SA, as this new variant has now been detected in South Africa, Hong Kong, Botswana, and also Israel. So far, Singapore has placed 7 countries on its red list, despite saying it has no cases of the new variant. Japan has implemented restrictions from 6 countries. Israel is barring South African travelers and banned its own citizens from visiting 7 countries in the southern African region. Germany is banning travel from South Africa, allowing only German nationals to enter the country. Italy also is barring entry to anyone who has visited southern African countries in the last 2 weeks, while the Czech Republic has also put in place a ban which takes effect on Saturday. France has also suspended flights to South Africa. All these countries follow the UK Health Minister Sajid Javid saying it will impose its own travel ban on 6 African countries over the spread of the variant.
The South African government held a press conference, and they talked about a new variant that they have found called B.1.1.529. I've been updated on this variant by the UK Health Security Agency, and they have now designated it as a variant under investigation. The early indications we have of this variant is that it may be more transmissible than the Delta variant, and the vaccines that we currently have may be less effective against it. So what we will be doing is, from midday tomorrow, we will be suspending all flights from 6 southern African countries, and we will add in those countries to the travel red list. Those countries are South Africa, Namibia, Lesotho, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And we will be requiring anyone that arrives from those countries from 4 a.m. on Sunday to quarantine in hotels, If anyone arrives before then, they should self-isolate at home and take a PCR test on day 2 and day 8. And if anyone has arrived from any of those countries over the last 10 days, we would ask them to take PCR tests.
In the meantime, the World Health Organization will be holding a special meeting to consider the significance of a rapidly spreading new coronavirus variant in South Africa. Experts in Geneva will decide whether it should be designated a variant of concern. A senior WHO official said it could take weeks to establish whether the high number of mutations had implications for the effectiveness of existing vaccines. Well, South African experts say the variant has spread rapidly among students in Pretoria. South Africa's National COVID Command Council is expected to meet on Sunday, the 28th of November, to discuss updates on this latest COVID-19 variant identified in the country, as well as to take measures further. The new variant, which is expected to be named by the WHO, is still being studied. The travel ban from several countries has elicited strong reactions from various sectors in South Africa who feel the decision was a rushed one.
The government of South Africa has noted the announcement by the United Kingdom to temporarily ban all flights from southern parts of Africa, including South Africa, from entering the United Kingdom due to the detection of a new coronavirus variant. While South Africa respects the rights of all countries to take the necessary precautionary measures to protect their citizens, the UK's decision to temporarily ban South Africans from entering the UK seems to have been rushed, as even the WHO is yet to advise on the next steps. Minister Naledi Pandor said, "Our immediate concern is the damage that this decision will cause to both the tourism industries and businesses of both countries. South Africa will engage the UK government with a view to persuade them to reconsider this decision."
Well, more reactions have been trailing the quick travel ban on South Africa by countries because of this new COVID-19 variant detected. For ordinary South Africans, the travel ban will hinder their daily work, while others fear the vaccines that are available now might not work against the new variant.
My fear currently is travel restrictions, because that's a huge part of my job. So for me, it's the implications this is going to have, to move around for work.
It's really concerning, and the fact that at the moment the vaccines that are on the market, nobody knows if actually they're going to be effective against this variant or not. It's really worrying for me.
Meanwhile, UK tourists in South Africa are expressing disappointment because they have to cut short their holiday trip and return home as a result of the variant detected.
Very emotional. I was happy to see my family, but I want to get home to my husband and my kids now. Yeah, so I hope I can make this flight with the tests and everything.
It's a big inconvenience. We had our flights booked for a week's time, but we got the news from our daughter in the UK about 12:30, 1 o'clock last night, saying that the UK were going to introduce a red list.
It's unfair, it's unjustified, it's abrupt, and it's not good for tourism for South Africa. We understand that Virgin has been bringing in a lot of tourists into South Africa, and ever since these regulations were passed last night, people are frantically trying to get back into the UK. The implications for tourism for South Africa are dire. It's very unfortunate.
Well, the European Commission has recommended that EU countries introduce an emergency brake on travel from southern Africa. That's in response to the new coronavirus variant, which was first detected there. Well, the President, Ursula von der Leyen, says the move will help limit the spread of the variant, recommending all air travel to affected countries be suspended. Returning travelers from the region should also, she adds that these travelers should respect strict quarantine rules. Our South African Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, joins us now for more on this. Hello, Betty. Let me begin by asking, what are your thoughts on the European Commission recommending this emergency brake? They've become the latest. Several other countries have imposed travel bans.
Well, I can only reflect, the thoughts of the people, and you've heard them straight from the horse's mouths. So there isn't too much for me to add. All I know is that this is a very bad time for South Africa, especially. This is holiday season. A lot of tourists, not just from the UK, other parts of Europe where you have winter, because in South Africa now it's summer. The best weather you can have for holiday, especially for people from Europe and even from the US. So you have so many of them coming. Holidays have been booked. It's been an emotional 24 hours for a lot of people who have even traveled halfway, but they've had to find their way back to wherever it is they're coming from. So the business just about picking up, the tourism and hospitality business just about picking up. Even the Minister of Tourism, Lindiwe Sisulu, released a statement of how the economy is going to be hurt at this time, November, December, January. That's a holiday season, peak period for them. And it's really a bad time. And people are quite confused, not just even for the international level, but also they're expecting further restrictions within. And they're hoping, after that COVID Command Council meeting on Sunday, they expect the president to say something. Nobody knows how far the restrictions will be, but we expect him to say something either that Sunday or Monday before he leaves for Nigeria for the state visit, which is supposed to happen from the 30th, I think. So it's been a very emotional 24 hours for a lot of people. The country, those coming in, those within the country, and the implications are quite huge. But people are worried again. But we have assurances from the WHO Technical Advisory Group on virus evolution, saying we're still studying these things, but that body, as well as the Africa CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control, they're advising against putting travel restrictions because, according to them, it hasn't really, brought about or yielded meaningful outcomes. But here we are, where we don't know which way to go. Government is waiting. The president is expected to hear or be given scientific evidence on Sunday. That's part of the meeting from the relevant bodies that Sunday.
Well, it appears there's, several countries banning travel. Did the government see this coming, especially when they were announcing yesterday?
The government didn't. But again, you have people saying, this is the price you pay for being transparent. Here you have a very vibrant or vigilant genomic sequencing and surveillance structure in the country. In simple English, the scientists are not joking, and they're, following the virus, the mutation, and all that. That is we expected a fourth wave about this time, or maybe a little bit later, probably in January, as the health minister, Joe Patler, had said. And they've been telling people, look, if you don't want further restrictions, let's behave this holiday period. That campaign had already started. And then we saw the numbers going up from 3-digit to 4-digit. Overnight, 24 hours, past 24 hours, we had 2,465 new cases and 114 deaths. And the government was already trying to say, look, this thing is coming a bit earlier, and then now we have this. But it's transparency that probably they're paying for, but this is a responsible science, and they indeed had to share that with the world. But they didn't expect, as you heard Clayton Monyela, that's the Deputy Director General for Diplomacy at the International Relations Department, saying we didn't expect them to rush into all these decisions, especially when the WHO hasn't actually said something definite regarding this variant we announced. And yes, and they're stressing, look, it's not necessarily from South Africa, but it was identified in South Africa. The case recorded, one of the cases recorded in Israel, is someone who had come in from Malawi. So nobody knows where this is really coming from, or maybe it's even from the other side of the world, you know. So they're quite disappointed at the rush, you know, in making all these pronouncements so soon after they had laid bare their cards.
All right then, thank you, Betty, our South Africa Bureau Chief.
Thank you.
We're shifting our focus away from South Africa to Burkina Faso, where President Roch Kabore is promising military and cabinet changes in the coming days amid growing protests over the government's response to militant attacks in the northern and eastern parts of the country. President Kabore said he will soon announce imminent changes within the military structure and has ordered the active and effective presence of military chiefs on the front line. A political coalition, dubbed 27 November Coalition, has called for mass protests, however, on Saturday to demand that the president steps down for failing to contain deadly militant attacks carried out by affiliates of Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. The Ethiopian government has announced new restrictions on reporting the war in which Tigrayan rebels are said to be continuing their advance towards the capital. In a warning to news outlets and social media users, it has banned the reporting of any military movements or updates from the battlefield unless the information has been approved by the government. Meanwhile, state media have shown footage of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in a rural location wearing a military uniform after saying days ago that he would head to the front line to direct the conflict. Mr. Abiy is also said to have handed over to his deputy before setting out to the battlefront. Sudanese protester deaths are hardening citizens' resolve against the military takeover in the country. The death toll has hardened opinion against security forces that are already being blamed for protester deaths in the uprising that ousted autocrat Omar al-Bashir back in 2019. Mohammed Abdel Salam says his 18-year-old son Mido was his backbone last month. Unfortunately, he was killed as he protested a military coup in Sudan, one of 42 such reported fatalities.
Mohammed Abdel Salam had been planning to help his son emigrate from Sudan to Saudi Arabia. Instead, 18-year-old Mido was shot and fatally wounded as he protested against the takeover by Sudan's military last month.
My son took a fatal blow to the chest, and the forces who were there were firing live rounds and tear gas. None of the protesters were carrying weapons or firing. Yes, there were protesters, but it is their right to do so. If they had fired weapons, I would understand. But these were youth at the beginning of their lives, and it was my backbone.
This was Mido's funeral procession. He's one of 42 people, according to medics aligned with the protest movement, to have been killed in demonstrations against the coup. Many of the dead were teenagers like him or in their 20s. The youngest was a 13-year-old girl. Police have acknowledged only a single protester's death and denied firing live rounds. But the toll has hardened opinion against security forces, already blamed for protester deaths in the uprising that ousted autocrat Omar al-Bashir in 2019. Many like Abdel Salam also reject a deal signed on Sunday that reinstated civilian Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok.
This deal that was recently signed doesn't represent anything to the Sudanese people because we want a civilian government. This deal is nothing more than a ruse. The military is still in their place. Our sons who died for the sake of a civilian and democratic government, this deal is completely rejected.
Protest leaders have vowed an escalation of civil unrest until the military is completely removed from power. On Thursday, they were marching again, this time under the slogan, "Loyalty to the Martyrs."
Militiamen have stormed a Libyan court and prevented judges from looking into Saif al-Islam Gaddafi's appeal against the decision to exclude him from the Libyan presidential race. Mr. Gaddafi's lawyer, Khalid Zaidi, said that the hearing could not take place because the employees of the court and judges were forced out at gunpoint. He describes the move as unacceptable and uncivilized and warned it would have implications on the election process. The Electoral Commission had rejected the candidacy of several applicants for the presidential race, including Mr. Gaddafi, the son of Libya's late leader Muammar Gaddafi, citing legal reasons. Mr. Gaddafi is wanted by the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes during the popular uprising against his late father's rule. Libyan military prosecutors had asked the Electoral Commission to stop processing the paperwork of both Mr. Gaddafi and warlord Khalifa Haftar until they are questioned over criminal charges brought against them. Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. 3 university students have designed and built a robotic dog that walks and barks when it hears any sound. It's solely for security reasons. When mass-produced, owners will be able to view what the dog is seeing via an indoor camera or their phone. Take a look.
Nigerian students have designed a black-furred robotic guard dog which they hope will help fight insecurity in the country when adapted and mass-produced. The robot dog reacts to sound and motion and begins to bark, while the owner can view the cause of its barking on a mobile device without the risk of stepping out into danger. This robotic dog is the invention and final year project of 3 students of the Adekunle Ajasin University in southwest Nigeria.
This is the camera of the dog, which they also call the eyes of the dog. When the dog detects a motion through the motion sensor, after seeing, immediately it is sending an electric pulse into the dog. It sends also to the camera, and then the camera helps the owner to interact with the dog to see what the dog is actually sensing.
Adeyi and his friends started the theoretical aspect and initial aluminium structure of their project in 2019, but could not come together because of COVID-19 restrictions and lockdowns. They were able to complete it in 2021 after adding sensors, the camera and foreskin to give the robot a realistic look.
I may be in my room, and once I hear the sound of the dog barking, I can just connect my device and just want to see the person in front of the robotic dog. I can even take the picture of the person.
With the help of this innovation, the owner of this robotic dog doesn't have to come outside to see why his or her dog is barking before he or she can know why or what is happening at the environment at that particular time.
The students say the robot dog still needs to be developed further to get it moving, able to avoid obstacles on its way, recognize its owners, and operate in all weather conditions. But the cost of parts, all of which have to be imported, remains a challenge. However, the team has a prototype of what the robot should be able to do when complete. Jalilia Adedeji, a research scientist at Adekunle Ajasin University, is supervising the project.
We want the dog to be more aggressive, and we want it to interact with man, with human being, so that it can be used for defense.
Nigeria is battling an Islamist insurgency in the northeast and a spate of kidnappings for ransom in the north and northwest. Deployment of technology has been touted in the past as a means of curbing insecurity.
And that's it on the program for today and the week. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Layo Adibuki. Have a great weekend.